Hey y'all, welcome back to the Let's Talk About Things podcast. If you're new here, my name is Holly. My sister Lacey and I have this podcast where we talk about all kinds of things, namely a lot of faith-based topics. And we are really excited for the episode that you're about to listen to / watch because we have our very first guest. It was one of our favorite conversations to date. So many golden nuggets of wisdom on faith, relationships, dating, what it means to be a man, a Christian man. It was an awesome conversation, and I cannot wait for y'all to hear it. So grab some coffee, stick around a little while, and let's talk about it. Yeah, like Lacey said, we're excited to have you on. We were talking about okay, we need some guys on here. We need to get some male perspective because, we know a lot, or we think we know a lot about different things, and but we're not guys at the end of the day. We're women.
For
So
sure.
there's just
For
differences
sure.
and men think differently. So she was like, hey, there's this guy
100%.
Hudson that's got this amazing nonprofit and he's doing like big things for the kingdom, and I think he'd be just a really cool guest to have. And so we're excited to have you on
Yeah,
here.
excited to
Um,
be here.
yeah, and I know this sounds like the stereotypical college tell me about yourself first question, but
No, you're good.
just basics like who are you, where are you from? Let people know who we're
Yeah,
talking to.
for sure. So my name's Hudson Ross. I'm from Fredericksburg, Texas. I grew up, we kind of moved all over the place. My dad was a home builder, so I was born in Austin. Then we lived in Austin until I was like in third grade, and then was in Johnson City to like fifth grade, and then Fredericksburg from like fifth to eighth, and then we moved to Port Aransas, and I was in Port
Cool.
Aransas for like 2 years, and then back to Fredericksburg. So I've kind of been all over the place. But I consider Fredericksburg home. I went to Midland College in St. Edwards and played golf there. And now I do ranch real estate and the Passion in Action nonprofit. So yeah, that's pretty
You
much
said you played
all that.
golf at Midland College?
Yeah, Midland College
Did
and
you watch the
St. Edwards.
Masters?
I did. I watched every single one of them. Can't miss any of
I
that.
don't know about you, but I was tearing up
That was
at
It was
Rory's
pretty cool.
reaction, especially when he hugged his daughter. I'm a mom with a daughter, so I was just
Yeah. It was
yeah.
pretty dang cool. I was super happy for him. I've been wanting him to win it for a while, so I'm glad he did.
Yeah, I think this was like his 11th attempt or something. I don't know.
It'd been, yeah, 10 years since he had, because in 2011, he was leading it and, had a really, really bad final round. And so it's just kind of been a mental thing for him. And to see him finally get over the hump was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Persistence. So that's awesome for him. But tell us about Passion in Action. What is it?
Yeah.
What's it about?
Yeah. So it's, for a while, I've been having like these ideas of different things to do. I honestly just didn't put pen to paper on it. And, I used to think a lot of the time that if I'm not like overseas or if I'm not like doing mission work somewhere else, that God doesn't really care about like what I'm doing here or the passions I have on my heart here, which is just a complete lie from the enemy. And so once I started including him in for me, I really enjoy golf. I really enjoy the outdoors. I love to connect people. And so I just started to ask myself, how can I glorify him through the gifts that he's given me? Which is kind of, the verse that we chose, First Peter 4:10, which is to glorify or how to glorify the Lord with the gifts that he's given you. And, it seems like a small thing to whether it's the golf or the outdoors or whatever, whatever your passion may be, but just asking him, how can I glorify you through this? So our first event was a golf tournament, and we had like filled it up like on super short notice, had like 50 people there, and tripled the money that we wanted to raise. So that was amazing. And so we do golf tournaments or outdoor stuff or worship nights, and we'll raise money for missionaries or families in need or someone who's sick or something like that. So
Okay,
that's
so it
kind
can
of the
be,
idea
you have
behind it.
all different types of things
Yeah,
that you send this money to and different causes.
for sure. So we're having where people will send in, different whether applications or just say, hey Hudson, my brother's a missionary. He's fundraising, or this person needs a wheelchair, or this person needs help with cancer treatment. Whatever it kind of is. There's no exact formula to it. And then yeah, just for me, the passions, like I said, are golf, the outdoors, and bringing people together. But that's different for everybody. And so our goal too is to encourage people to look inward and ask the Lord, like whatever their passions are, how can they glorify Him through whatever it is that the Lord has on their heart or what they're gifted at. Because we're
Yeah, I
all
love
unique. Yeah,
I love that perspective because a lot of times we think that we're not qualified or we don't have what someone else has, but God's gifted us with so many different personalities and
for sure.
talents, and that's kind of the heart behind our podcast. Lacey and I were like, "What are we good at?" And one of the things that came to mind was talking.
Yeah,
We're pretty gifted as communicators, so we were like, "How can we use that to glorify God?" And here we are trying to do
yeah.
just that. So
No,
so
that's
that's
awesome.
awesome. When did
Yeah.
you start it?
So our first event I think was in early March. So it was like we literally planned our first thing in like a month, and I was just had the idea, and I was like, I'm sick of just always talking about it, and I've struggled kind of in the past of I feel like the Lord's given me a lot of ideas, and I would think about it, like, yeah, I'm gonna go do that, and I just wouldn't do it, and just would get sucked into the busyness of life. But just realizing that that's the most important thing, and so finally I was like, let's just do it. And so I called the venue and we planned it and put a down payment down, and like the Lord's going to provide. And he did. One of my buddies who owns a golf company, he donated like 3 sets of golf clubs, which are worth like $10,000. And
Yeah.
so that was like super out of the blue. We hadn't talked in like 5 years or something like that. And he flew all the way down for the tournament and to
Wow.
help fit the people for the clubs and stuff. And so that was like huge being able to have him there. And it just like came together more than I would have ever, thought, especially that quick. Cause it's a
Yeah.
lot to plan an event and something like that in, less than a month's time.
That's crazy. We
But
tend to put limits on God, which is just crazy. Because we have limits in our own mind about what we think can get accomplished, and
for
so we
sure.
end up putting limits on God, and it's just
Yeah, he don't have any.
ludicrous.
Yeah,
Wow,
no,
awesome.
something I've been doing is just really trying to be intentional too, just through, prayer time and asking him to grow my faith in him. And, oftentimes the prayers, if anything, are too small, and just making prayer points too of whatever it is so I'm more aware of it. And so as opposed to just like, before I go to bed saying it and I fall asleep halfway before, I'm done praying, but
Been
been
there.
writing the prayer points. Yeah. And just throughout the day, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, God just did that, like, he's doing it right now," and, it's helped me be a lot more aware, and it's grown my faith at times. 'Cause I'm like, "He's answering, like, prayers left and right, like, I just gotta pay attention." And
Yeah.
it's not that he's not working, it's that, sometimes that we're just going too fast and we don't slow down and actually look.
Yeah, absolutely. God's never in a hurry. We are.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure. Yeah. So let's see. You said you're in Fredericksburg now doing ranch realty. That's your day job.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I live in Austin, but yeah, I'm from Fredericksburg, and my parents are there, and I travel kinda all over the hill country, selling ranches.
oh, very cool, very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lacey will be in Austin in July. She's actually competing in her second bodybuilding competition,
Oh,
so she'll
nice.
she'll be down in that area. We're kind of
Awesome.
excited to see Austin. We haven't been in a while, so we'll be
Sweet.
in that area for sure. Yeah.
That's
Um,
awesome.
So fun, not
Austin's
torturous.
great.
yeah, for sure.
We were there last time and we saw a band. Well, we had originally, what were we there for? Wedding?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Taylor and Jake's wedding.
but we love that area. That's one thing I think Holly and I have talked about. If we ever leave San Angelo, or I guess her and her husband, I'm just the third wheel.
Yeah.
But I was like, if we ever were to leave, it would either be the Fredericksburg or somewhere towards that hill country area. That's
Yeah.
just kind of what we
For
love.
sure.
So we enjoy that area. But I've been curious as well. I don't mean to overstep or switch the
No.
topic or anything, but
No
We're
overstepping at
flowing,
all.
vibing.
yeah, so I have some girls that I know I get asked this question weekly. We have our Bible
Mhm.
studies weekly, and it's the common thing that women want us to pray for them. And I actually just had this conversation with a dear friend of mine and her husband. I guess in her situation, she's 100% a godly woman. She goes to church, she reads her scripture, she'll talk openly about her faith, she shares
Mhm.
her story. And I guess her husband isn't quite there. He's still
Yeah.
trying to lead the family. He's still trying to he doesn't go to church. He doesn't exactly read his Bible. He's still learning. And I think with her trying to tell him, he's obviously kind of pulling away and he's like,
Yeah,
I don't
for
want to
sure.
hear it.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to do with bringing you on, because you do have such a unique perspective and we do want to hear your story with your faith. I know on some of your videos you've talked a little bit about your
Yeah.
journey. But I just want to know, especially from like, I'm just going to throw it out there just for
Yeah,
me,
go for it.
especially on my journey with trying to find my person as well. I want to help those out there that are single, are in a relationship, or married, or just trying to find their own path. As a man, what is your advice on how you came to Christ? What really was the click for you? And in your journey, whether your relationship, your path in
Mhm.
life, what is the advice you could give to men and to women on how to approach that kind of situation?
Yeah, so, is it okay if I start with your friend's situation?
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Of course.
yeah, so that's definitely, a tough one, like, that's super hard, and, power to her for, sticking with it, and I think there's a verse, I think it's in Matthew, but, it's just pray, like, go to war and pray for your spouse, and because
Mhm.
it's not us that's gonna change it, and the more you focus on Jesus, the more he's gonna see Jesus through you, and it's a situation, yes, it's hard, and you gotta die to yourself kinda in a way, and, but, like, I had a situation, whenever I first came, like, really surrendered to the Lord, my sister, like, I was having these conversations with her, and she was, like, calling she just didn't understand it, like, at all. We were on completely different pages. She thought everything I was saying was stupid and just, like, way overboard. She's like, "You're going way overboard with this," and, and she would have considered herself a Christian, and, I was getting frustrated in the moment, and then, she kinda left the room, and God just kinda reminded me, it was like, "Well, Hudson, what were you thinking 6 months ago?" And I was thinking exactly what she thought. And so he's like, "Okay, well, just go to war and pray for her." And so, I didn't let anything else bother me. I just prayed for her. And like 4 months later, she ended up getting back baptized. She's in seminary now, like completely giving herself to the Lord. Like, and it's nothing by like what I did. It's not like a knowledge thing. You're never going to win somebody over by that. It's all about just showing them the love of Christ, and they're going to see the difference in your life. Like
Mhm.
for your friend, if you just overly love your spouse and just go to war and pray with them, this he's gonna notice that in you, and obviously it's definitely a hard circumstance, like, it's not ideal, but, like, in it, I think that's the thing that will get him over the hump. Ultimately, Christ does, but he can do it through her, and also, I know that's hard, like, it's definitely hard, and it's part of, dying to ourself in a way.
And does that approach, I know God can do anything. He can work
For sure.
miracles, but does that approach work on the male brain? Y'all think differently than we do.
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
a lot of people would say men aren't as emotional. They're,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. Like, does just loving them and praying for them, is that still going to work on a stubborn male brain?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so if any yeah, I think I've been in relationships, especially too, when I haven't been where I've needed to be, and maybe, like, someone's kind of done that to me, and the feeling of, like, them trying to control the situation,
Mhm.
it's because it's not biblically, it's when you get out of whack that way, if the woman's trying to completely control it, then it just gets everything all messed up, and obviously, the man needs to be where he needs to be also,
Right.
um, but yeah, I'd say that, just through the love of Jesus, literally. I know it sounds like a cliche, simple, like,
No.
answer, but it's, like, over time, like, that will wear on him. It's not there's no, like, perfect thing you're gonna say that's gonna, "Oh my gosh, that he's gonna get it now." It's just that over time, and praying for the Lord to soften his heart in that and just to grow his hunger for him, like, he's gonna do it, and he can
Yeah.
use it, like, her as a picture or whoever it may be of his love in it and be like, "Wow, like, I've been kind of a butt, and she's literally, like, loving me so well. She's praying for me all the time." And, that doesn't go unnoticed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's really encouraging for women in relationships or married to know. And I mean, like we said, I'm married and I see Lacey and the dating world that she has to go through, and that so many single people are going
it's
through
rough out
right
there.
now. And I feel like, I think there was a meme that said, "Do married people feel like they just got the last chopper out of Nam?" Looking at all of us dating people, I'm like, yes. I mean, y'all are struggling. Have you, as a male, as a Christian male in the dating world, do you feel that just it sucks out there kind of thing?
Yeah, no, it's definitely easy to get that way. And I think I really struggled with, kind of thinking, oh, like there's just nobody out there. There's never gonna whatever, it's never gonna happen. And it's easy to get to a point to where you idolize that also, and not trusting the Lord and what He has for you. I actually had a crazy situation happen in Fredericksburg. So I'd been really thinking that way. And this was about a month and a half ago. And I was at Hondo's, which is just this, restaurant. I was there with my family. And anyway, there was this group of girls there, and they seemed whatever nice, but they were like, "Hey, you want to go to this karaoke place after?" I'm like, "No," whatever. And I was just completely like, hard no. And I
Heck
lost my
no.
ID, which it wasn't a lie. I did lose my ID, but I had my passport. I thought I had it. I didn't have that either, so I couldn't get in anyway. Anyway, I didn't think anything of it, but in my mind, I did judge them a little bit. And anyway, like 20 minutes later, they left, and then I got like a Facebook call from a girl that used to work at another place in Fredericksburg. I guess she was now working there, and she FaceTimed me, and like those girls were there at the Velvet or the karaoke place in Fredericksburg, and that girl that worked at the other place is now working at this place, and she's like, "Hey, you don't need an ID, come on." And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
No.
And so my dad's like, "Son, just go over there or whatever for a little bit." It was only like whatever 8:30. And anyway, I ended up going over there, and it was like the Lord just completely proved me wrong. Like it was like super nice, like group of girls. They were there for, one of them was getting married, but they've been doing Bible studies each day, their bachelor trip, and like we all share our testimonies with each other. And it wasn't anything like, oh, I want to like date any of them or anything, but it was just like the Lord kind of showing me like, hey, like don't doubt what I can do. And there are good girls out there and people that are following me, and it's going to be in His timing. So I feel a lot more like it's probably as free as I've ever been in that. And it's a hard thing to fully trust His timing, but like He will put the right person there at the right time. And we just got to be careful not to idolize it, and not that it's wrong to like go after that, because we should be forward, especially as men. Like you need to be the one who's pursuing, but we also should be prayerful about it. And it shouldn't be a deal where like, oh my gosh, I need to find like whoever, which I'm fully guilty of in the past of doing that. It's super easy to, when you're single or whatever, to turn to the world in a way and be like, oh my, kind of freak out for a second. And but turning to Jesus is so much better. And that whenever whoever He puts in front of you, it's going to be 10 times better that way too, as opposed to something that you kind of had to work hard or strive for. And if I would have known that in the past, and we would all have a lot less heartbreak. We would all have a lot less issues if we would just done it His way all along. If it's His way or the highway. So,
and I noticed you said it a couple of times that we're guilty of idolizing dating. Can you flesh that out? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I just think that it's super easy to because we can idolize things that are like of God, that are good things, but if Jesus isn't at the very top, like He isn't in the forefront, then we kind of miss it. And it's like, if you put dating, super high up, and like it's a good thing, like dating's not a bad thing, but if I have that to where like, okay, that's like, if I'm not getting what I want out of that, and that's causing me to sin, or if that's causing me to maybe not spend as much time with God, or if that's affecting me more than it should, then I'm putting that too far at the forefront of of my life, as opposed to Jesus. And it's like that's the thing that's constantly consuming my mind, or if I'm constantly worried about that, or if I'm constantly worried about if she's going to text back or whatever, then it's like I need to reset and realize where my priorities are. And
I think that's huge.
sanctification thing. It's never like you're never going to fully have it figured out. And that's where I've kind of messed up in the past, is to where, I've been in a really, really good place and I thought that, okay, like I'll never like get back there, but the enemy's sneaky, like comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And like before you know it, if you're not like really focused on Jesus above all else, then it's easy to get to that point.
Right. Absolutely. And that's such a good point, because you caught the idolizing thing too. I mean, that's something Holly knows. In my Bible, I have this, several lists of things that I would like. It's a cleanse me side and a side that I wish God would strengthen me in. And it's things that I just know I could be stronger in. I know that I need to work on. But I think like what she was saying and what you were also reiterating with the dating life now, whether people like to put their own terminologies on it or not, there's so many people that I know that are good people. We're not perfect, we're human, but they're all searching for the same goal. They want to find a good godly man or a good godly woman. And in that, I had to kind of, in my dating world, Holly knows I stepped aside from dating. I wanted to just cool it for a bit and figure out for the last year myself and what God was calling me to do. So personally, on my side, I said, look, I want to be a Proverbs 31 woman. That is my goal. My goal is to be better. And so as I was working on this and doing all these things to become the wife that hopefully he's prayed for, God hit me one day and he goes, look, you're doing all the right things and you're listening to my commands, but the one thing that I still kept doing was I was still, if we would go out, like you said, or we'd go hang out at a restaurant, we go hang out at a Bible study, I'd kind of see, hey, who's available? Or is someone going to come talk to me? Is someone going to approach me? Instead of just enjoying the moment, instead of just being there with the people. And God hit me one day. He goes, look, you're reading all the right things. You're doing all the right things, but you're still not getting the key message. And he told me, if all you had was me, if all that you had left in this world was just me, would you be happy? Exactly. And at that time, a year ago, I was like, I don't know if I would. And I was like, honestly, I don't know about that. You can't take away this. Don't take away my family. Don't take away. But then eventually I had to realize through a lot of sacrifice and a lot of isolating that I could not be the person my future husband has prayed for, because I wasn't ready to surrender everything I had. And so once I did that, fast forward, I told Holly, I was like, it's not that I don't want to date. It's that it's almost like there's a sense of discernment within you, that Holy Spirit that hits when you do go out or you do meet other people. You're not looking at them in that way anymore. Exactly. It's more so it's a pure, like it's you're not looking at them like that. You're just wanting to engage in a well-rounded conversation. And if they can have the same spiritual mindset and you feed off each other, that's wonderful. But in my heart we tell each other everything. We're sisters. So I tell Holly all the time, I'm like, hey, look, I know the man I've prayed for and the man that I continually pray for, whether I've met him or not, I know that once it's my time, God will let me know. He'll let both of us know. So I just go out now, and whether that's to the rodeo that we have in San Angelo or wherever we're going, it's more of I'm happy to meet people. And if he asks me to disciple them when it's the right time, I do as he's called. But until then, it's just, you kind of have to just discern each situation. And I don't know if men have it the same way, but now that you explained it, it makes more sense.
Yeah. And Lacey will, the few times Lacey's, gotten up the courage and said, okay, I'll go on another date with another guy. Like, oh my goodness, she's, I'm sure it's exhausting for all you singles. Sometimes she'll just be like, he's a nice guy, but something like just is not it. And like, I think the more in tune you are with God, the more you put him first, the quicker whether someone is your person.
And it's nothing disrespectful towards that person, but it's just in my heart, I know the man I've prayed for. I have it written down many times, the qualities I want. And it's not that I'm picking him apart, because that is not what I'm doing. And I'm sure you might have your own story with this. I go in with an open mind. I ask God to lead my heart, to let me listen to him, let me enjoy the moment. But I don't know how to explain it to people other than it's the Holy Spirit telling me, this is a great guy. We need you to talk to him about something that he eventually opens up about and he's very vulnerable about. And then I share the word of God with him. But it's a weird feeling. I immediately go, that's not him. That's not him. Like, he's a great guy, but that's not him. And it's wonderful though, because I think in my past, I would have been clinging on to the idea of someone rather than who they actually were. Now it's more of now it's more of a, You're nice, but
And do men have those thoughts about women that you're sitting there with and you're like, man, nice girl, but I'm not marrying her. Like, do y'all
Yeah, I
think
mean,
about stuff like that?
oh, for sure. I mean, if you're being honest with yourself, but
Mhm.
I think those are good thoughts to have because if you act in the correct way after that and end things like you should, or just say that, hey, it's just not
not
it,
for me. Yeah.
which is nothing wrong with that because you're not wasting their time or your
Right.
time. And if you're sitting there trying to change the person on the first date, and it's just
Mhm.
not gonna work. And if you're valuing looks and all those things at the top. It could be like a extremely beautiful person or whatever, but if the other things aren't right, what are you going to value more? The prayer I pray too is like I want to be attracted to what God's attracted to,
Mhm.
and like that be the number one thing because it's like looks fade, and but
Yeah.
if you have a person that fears God and loves the Lord more than they love you, like they're gonna love you better than you can ever be loved, like
Mhm.
without
Well,
a doubt. So that's
yeah.
the number one thing. If you don't have that, then you miss it. If you put like with a spouses or a relationship, if you have kind of God at the top, it's like a triangle, and both people are working towards God. As you're working towards Him, like you're gonna both get closer at the same time as you're working towards Jesus.
Yeah.
That's huge, and that's huge for anybody single. I think I told my husband that before we got married. I said, you probably already know this, but I'm his before I'm yours.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
always, like he's always going to be at the top. And of course, my husband's like, I wouldn't expect anything less.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's where you should be.
yeah,
So
And I
that's
think
huge.
that's where a lot of my Bible study girls, I hear them because they're a bit younger than me.
yeah,
And I have to keep that in mind because they're still in school, they're still learning and still asking very brilliant questions. And I'm 28, so I'm sitting there going, I'm ready for marriage. I'm ready to
yeah,
find my person. I want to get that land, be a wife, be a mama
yeah,
someday. Like that's my goal. And I know
yeah,
God placed it on my heart. So I know it's meant for me, just not right now, I guess.
yeah,
And one of the girls was saying, I want to find a good godly man. I want to find a man that is willing to lead the family. He's willing to go out and do what it needs to take to provide for me and our kids. And she was listing off all these things. And I just had to ask her, well, do you think if you want that out of your husband, do you think you can provide that? The equivalents as a wife.
yeah,
And
for
she
sure.
goes, well, I don't really know. I said, sometimes the reason why you guys haven't met is either because God's working on each of you individually, or there's just some things going on that the timing's never right and God's always perfect. But like Holly was saying, it's more of a, if you're married to somebody, that person is going to be the person you spend the rest of your life with.
Mhm.
That person is going to raise your children with you. You need to have somebody that you could go to war with and somebody that also can be more of your, I mean, essentially your best friend at the end of
Yeah,
the day. And so I see a lot of these girls that I try to talk to, and granted, I'm not saying Holly by any means. I mean, I don't, I just try to give the best advice I can. I don't try to tell these girls anything, but we just hear it over and over again. And so hearing from your stories and your videos is
yeah,
what I wanted them to understand was they're out there, but these kind
for
of men
sure.
have a different mindset like yourself. You automatically have a different shift that you had to
Yeah,
take on your own. It almost took you in isolation with God as well.
for
It had to
sure.
take your own journey, your own faults, your own mistakes that you had to recognize
Mhm.
to be the man you are today. And a lot of times,
Yeah,
these women, they're still wanting to teach men, they're wanting to fix men rather than just allowing themselves to be healed, allowing themselves to be
for
fixed.
sure.
And then it'll come from there.
Yeah, that's that whole, just, you know, relying on God to do his thing, praying for him, going to war for him, and just relying on him to do his thing. And something earlier you said you were talking to your sister and she was
Mhm.
initially kind of saying, Hudson, you're talking crazy there. What
Yeah,
you talking
yeah,
about? So it sounds like maybe your journey to faith, maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but did you
yeah,
grow
no,
up in the church? Was that part of
yeah,
life?
yeah. So I grew up in the church, and one of the the greatest things that my dad ever did is when I was younger. He's like, Hudson, you just talk to Jesus like he's your best friend. And
Mhm.
so like I had the relationship aspect down, but I wasn't fully pursuing him. So I didn't know fully his character. And so I didn't know what that fully looked like to follow him. And I would always pray, talk to Jesus, and even read my Bible most nights, but it wasn't connecting with my heart.
Hmm.
And it's a heart aspect behind it. I was self-righteous in some ways, My mom my mom had an alcohol problem, so I never haven't drank. And, I didn't go sleep around or anything like that, but I was fully getting fulfillment out of going downtown or whatever and getting attention from girls, whatever it may be. And, it was just, and pursuing that, and it just constantly leaves you empty, and
Yeah.
so.
So, and if this is too personal, you don't have to get into it, but what was the shift? What made you change from kind of a lukewarm, Christian, I guess you could call it, to on fire? What was that shift?
So like about 6 years ago, my mom got diagnosed with cancer. And, I was in college, and like I said, I would consider myself a full-on Christian then. And anyway, I came home, and during that time too, my mom was always a great mom. She did have a drinking problem, and I said I wasn't going to talk to you for 6 months until you can be sober for 6 months. And 6 months to the day is when she had that stroke, which we figured out she had cancer. So I hadn't talked to her in 6 months. Anyway, I came home, and during that 6 months, she had grown a lot with the Lord in that time, and it was very, extremely evident. Like, she had tears of joy when she just got told that she had brain cancer because her son had came back and forgiven her, and that her family was around. I said it was the best day of her life, and she just got told she's got a few months to live, and it just, blew my mind.
Yeah.
And so through her suffering, seeing her have the joy in the Lord she had, it was, terrible. She goes from a marathon runner, super mom, to basically a skeleton. And that's just the reality of it. That can't do anything. I can't breathe. And seeing how she glorified the Lord and she never complained. She said, I know where I'm going if the Father takes me home, and was just extremely loving. And, a lot of me, when she passed away, it was 2 years later, but I stuffed it down. I didn't want to look at it. And that's when I really started to go downtown and stuff all the time, and just trying to fill my mind or myself with busyness. And it was 2 years after that. And for whatever reason, I started going to Austin Ridge. It's a church here in Austin. And there was a sermon that was talking about a fan or a follower of Jesus. And it was the first time it hit me. And I was like, the things that he was listing as a fan, I was like, that is me. I'm a fan. I've not been following Jesus. And it just, he just pierced my heart with that. And, then I was, on the way home, almost weeping on the way home, saying that, I have not surrendered and all this stuff. And I get in there to my house, and the Duck Dynasty guys have a Bible study called Unashamed.
Yes.
And I was watching that, and they talked about a mom who, was glorified the Lord through her cancer. And it just was an epiphany type thing, just brought it all up front. And I just realized that. And right then and there, I was like, okay, Lord, I'm done with myself. I'm done doing it my way. I surrender to your ways. And so that was about 4 years ago now since that happened. But not that it's been, perfect since then. It's constant sanctification and going to him. But, that was when I first had an idea of what it looked like to pursue him and to surrender to him.
Yeah, that's huge. I love that. I've never heard that comparison, but a fan or a follower. I love that. That's something to really think about for anybody.
Yeah, for sure.
And you said you used to, go downtown, go to bars, looking for that fulfillment, looking for something to, fill that void.
For sure.
After you kind of made that transformation, do you think it's, for people that are wondering, hey, can I be Christian and still go to a bar? Can I still go hang out? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So, I think it's all the heart behind it. For me, I was going down to 6th Street and stuff, which it gives me bad thoughts. I don't think I should be there. So, I'm not going in there and sharing the Lord, with whatever WAP on the playing on whatever it is,
Yep.
all the music. And it's I can't be a light in that situation unless I'm there to literally preach the gospel. And that's a lie. If I said that's what I was doing, I wasn't. I don't think there's anything wrong with whatever going to a bar or anything like that, but it just depends on the setting of it. And you truly got to look in at your heart, because some people will say, oh, well, Jesus hung out with the tax collectors, the prostitutes, and all that, but he wasn't partaking in what they were partaking in. He was going there to be a light and preach the truth. And I can't do that where I can't hear anything. and really even see because it's dark and lights are flashing. Like I can't be a light there. So unless I literally, turn the lights on and whatever, start preaching. And I just, I don't feel called to go do that. So I'm not going to go to places like that, but I go to, whatever Broken Spoke, like 2-step places and whatever. There's like old dive bars. Me and my buddy go in and play pool. There's nothing wrong with that. And like I said, it's a heart thing. And it's, it's something that each individual has to pray about to the Lord about. And he'll convict you of it if it's not right, and ask him to search your heart on it. Just be honest with yourself.
Yeah. And do you because that's such a good point too, is I know you mentioned you don't drink, and even with my prep coming up, no drinking is allowed, but even before that wasn't something that I was very strong on. Similar to you, when I lived in Lubbock at the time, when I was 25, I went down that path. I had a darkness in my life. I was drinking, going to the bars for fulfillment, never found it. You end up feeling worse, kind of thing. But for me, I think I also asked God at one point when I was going through isolation, he was healing me from the inside out. I want to know from your perspective if it was similar. With me, I had to remember that when you're going to the bars, it's the intentionality behind it, but also who you surround yourself with. And a lot of times the girls that I was going out with, they weren't yet convicted. They had worn the cross necklaces. They had said that they had prayed, but their actions didn't perceive what they were saying. And I kind of felt wherever I was at, I might have looked like kind of a fuddy-duddy, to be honest, at these bars, because I'd be sitting there and I was fiddling with my ring, or I'd look around and I was just so aware of what was around me. And I remember looking up one day and I was like, God, I am not meant to be here. Like, this is not where I'm meant to be. And I left, and I just remember praying, and I was going like, how do I find better women? And when I moved from Dallas back to San Angelo, I kind of found some women out of nowhere. They came out of nowhere. They've been through hell and back, same as I have. And they pray for me. They text me regularly saying, hey, I know you're struggling. Can I say a prayer for you? And I just went, how did I go from this to that? But eventually, I mean, same with guys. I don't know how it works necessarily with guys. That's why you're here. But I had to kick out a lot of people in my life that were toxic, or they were idolizing certain things I no longer wanted to partake in. And with guys, do you think that if there's women struggling with getting their husbands in the church, or girlfriends trying to get their boyfriends to lead and be the men of the house, do you think who you surround yourself with, and maybe men attending groups, is beneficial?
Oh yeah, I'd say it's huge. First, I'll say, like, if there's a girlfriend and she's trying to get her boyfriend to go to church and she's already after Jesus, cut it off. Like, you're just setting yourself for failure, and that's just being real. The man's supposed to lead. You're not supposed to make him into whatever you want him to be. The Lord is going to do that, so you need to set your sights on that beforehand. And so if you're trying to get your guy to be a Christian or be more of one beforehand, you're already set up for failure. You're supposed to be equally yoked, like oxen going at the same pace. And if it's
iron
not
sharpens
that,
iron.
and you're just dating, then you're just setting yourself up for heartbreak, failure. I've been there, I've done that, and it doesn't work. And I've been hypocritical in it, because that's what we're doing when we're in a relationship. That, like, if, for instance, if I was trying to get my girlfriend, hey, like, will you come to church or whatever, like, I'm being hypocritical by even pursuing that relationship off of someone who's not there yet. And so I got to look at my heart and be like, why am I, like, what am I attracted to in this? If it's not, number one, that she's a God-fearing woman.
So it sounds like you make a distinction between if you're married or just dating. Like, so it sounds like if you're married to someone who's having issues getting to church, having issues with their relationship with God, in that instance, you stick with them and you keep fighting for them. But it's like you're saying, if you're just dating, if they're not there, you don't need to be going there. Yeah,
because marriage, you've already made that covenant between you and God, and just trusting that he can redeem that, which I know that he can. And there's tons of different stories of that. But if you're just dating, then it shouldn't even be dating in the first place.
Well, then you're just going to be
somebody needed to hear that.
It's I mean, even if you look at it politically, everyone says, oh, don't date somebody who doesn't have the same politics. Screw that. Why would you date somebody that doesn't have the same spiritual journey as you, and the same path and the same mindset? Because in a lot of where I see a lot of my friends butting heads with their relationship, and I just try to be a voice when they ask. I
Yeah.
see it is when the woman is trying to get him to lead and she's trying to get him to do these things, and that's where all the conflict happens because he's not wanting to already do that himself. And like you
Yeah.
said, if you don't have a partner that loves the Lord with their whole heart, has a relationship with them, knows how to love like Jesus, then
Mhm.
they're not going to know how to love you. And it's
Exactly.
plain as day. They're not going to know how to, when you're in a difficult situation and we're still human, we get angry, we get frustrated, we get emotional. They're not going to know how to speak to you when you're sitting there having a moment. And instead of lashing out irrationally, you can sit there and talk to them and say, let's pray about this instead. Let's have a
Yeah.
conversation. Talk to me. What's going on? And a lot of these women are like, my husband's not doing this. My boyfriend's not doing this. Well, it's not your job to teach them that. It is their job to want to go to the scripture and want to learn this. But a lot of times, like kind of in Zach's situation, her husband, he
Mhm.
had to find the right godly man to
Yeah,
lead him into this men's group that he's in now, and
for
he's doing
sure.
great as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
have you ever had friends that, weren't really walking the straight and narrow and you helped guide them that
Yeah.
way?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, the importance of those groups and stuff is huge. And I'll be honest, like I didn't even think it was possible and or didn't even know it really existed really until, like I said, about 3 or 4 years ago. And I was, dating a girl, and it's like my first like godly relationship. And I saw the friends that she had. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. Like I didn't even know this existed. And so it turned out the Lord showed me, he's like, "Hey, you're just looking in the wrong places. So on
Mhm.
6th Street, I'm not going to find the community or the person I'm supposed to be with, obviously." And anyway, so that was like a blessing for me to see that the friends that she had, and I could just everybody was so loving and everybody's pursuing Jesus. And it's just like you don't even view anybody in a, I don't know, like sexual whatever way at all. It's just a purely like pure thing, and it's so cool to see. And then so once like I saw that, I was like, okay, I need to get this in my life. You know, start looking in the right places, and then having intentional conversations too with the friends that I had. And we started doing a Bible study for the last whatever it's been 4 years in different discipleship groups, and because that's what we're called to do. That's our main purpose is
Yeah.
to be fishers of men. And but yeah, and then just some other friends like God just does crazy things. I have a buddy named Andrew, and we met playing golf like 4 years ago, and didn't think anything of it. Then I saw him again a year later, and we played a few holes together. I mentioned to him about the Bible study that we do, and didn't hear from him a year and a half. And he texted me, he's like, "Hey, y'all still doing a Bible study?" And I was like, "Who is this?" I didn't even know who it was. And it was just a year and a half later. Anyway, he ends up coming to the Bible study, and the Lord ends up saving him, and he gives his life to Jesus, and it's just he has an amazing, like, beautiful testimony, and it's just so cool to see because you never know how God's gonna use it,
Yeah.
and anyway, but yeah, it's
That
really really cool to see.
That's powerful. I love that. I think there's just an impact men can have on other men that we as women just don't have. I mean, we can only do so much, and then it takes another man being like, "Hey, you gotta get your stuff straightened out, and here's how to
Yeah,
do it."
no, for
So that's
sure, and you need to make sure that you're the a good quality in a man. This is something that I've struggled with too. Just I think all men in general is whatever darkness or whatever struggles they have, like make sure they're bringing it to other men. Like if you see them being vulnerable about that, and I even struggle with that in relationships about really opening up and being vulnerable, because I was worried about comparison or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, if I say this, then they're already maybe comparing me about something else, so they're not going to be, they're going to whatever, not want to be with me because of that.
yeah.
And that's a huge lie from the enemy, because if that's the case and that person doesn't want to love you like through that, which whatever it may be, which sometimes that's okay and sometimes it's not, then then it's not the right person, which is completely okay.
Yeah.
And so you just save yourself a lot of time.
Yeah,
But
and I know my husband, he's getting into these groups with these just incredible men of God. And, he'll tell me, he's like, you are my best friend, you are my spouse. There's pretty much nothing I don't tell you, but sometimes there's conversations I can only have with
yeah,
another man. Like there's just that male to male conversation that just can transform a guy. And so I'm thinking for someone like Lacey's friend who is struggling to get her husband motivated to pursue a relationship and go to church. It sounds like he needs to get with some good dudes.
And she's prayed for him.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one thing I brought up was, are you praying with him? Are you going to war for him? Are you praying for him behind closed doors? Because at the end of the day, if you're doing it in front of people, or if you're doing it for the wrong intentions, it's always going to come back in a different shape or form. But she said, Lacey, she goes, I prayed for him every day. She goes, I go to war for him. They've been together, I think, almost 6-7 years.
Okay.
She said, I just don't know what else to do. He doesn't go to church. He doesn't want to talk to me about this. And I said, have you prayed for other men to reach him? And I was like, not necessarily. I mean, I keep praying for him, keep going to war for him. At the end of the day, this is her husband. Her and I are both all of us are believers. When you're married, that's it. There's no divorce. That's just what we believe. And with her, she's the same way. So she was, Lacey, I don't want to give up, but I am so tired. I'm so frustrated. I said, that's what the devil wants you to lean into. I was like, lean on to God. I told her, don't give up. I think that's one thing a lot of wives do is they get frustrated. It is hard. It is a battle. But the more you fight with the Lord rather than against him and in your own way, he's going to fight for you. And so we're hoping it gets better. But like what you were saying, just with your standpoint, who you surround yourself with, the people that you just know, they're good people, but you don't really necessarily need to invite them to the table at the moment. And it's just one of those situations. I think a lot of women need to understand in their own faith and in their own journey that if they're trying to find their man of God or they're trying to find their partner, they have to also relinquish that control so that God can do the rest of the work. Because that's like you said, when you start idolizing it, it's really easy to get caught up into but I'm doing everything right. I'm doing this. I'm semi-attractive, or I do this right, and then nothing's working. And
I tell married women all the time, you got to get out of God's way.
You have to.
You gotta sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. Like, get out of God's way. He can't work if you're in his way. So
how peaceful is it when you finally surrender and you're just like, God, you do what you got to do. You tell me where I need to go, and I'll listen to you. And you're chill, because at the end of the day, we're not living for this world. This is our temporary home, and this is the closest to hell we're ever going to get for believers. So it's almost like, why am I worrying about something that's already happened? It's already going to happen. God has my person. Why am I worrying about it? And then you realize how silly you've been in a way. You're kind of like, oh, I overreacted, my bad.
So, for Christian singles out there who are like, where do I go to meet Christian singles? Like, where do you suggest they go? Or don't go anywhere, just let it come to you? What do you think?
I mean, I think just being
karaoke bars.
I guess that's the first time I'd seen that. But
what was your karaoke song? Did you sing?
I did not. I watched, but they called me up for the song at the end before I don't even know what it was. It was some girl song, so I don't know. But, I got up there and I did it.
Look at you.
Nice.
For places, I mean, I've as weird it is, like, not that you're going to church for that, but like, that's, whatever. That's a great place to meet somebody, but just being prayerfully intentional about that, and just I pray for God to make it obvious to me. I'm just like, hey Lord, like, make it obvious to me. I'm too stupid to figure it out myself. Like, I am. And so it's like, just put it in front of me and make it obvious. And I truly have like faith in that. And that's something I've been praying about, different things in my life, and he's making it as obvious as he can make it. I'm like, cool, well, he can make it obvious about this. So, just having faith for that. And then, for girls, I would say, the man needs to be the one that's going to pursue you first. And if it's something that you're having to do on your own, then it's probably not right. And so just to make sure that that's 100% set, and just, like I said, seeing that either way, like, they have God is number one. Like, on the first date, Jace Robertson with his wife, he was like, I'm looking for somebody who's going to partner with me in my ministry. If you're not cool with that, then I can take you back home. And like, literally on the first date, I'm like,
oh, wow.
And so, it's just better to get all that out of the way as opposed to going on a couple dates and not really knowing it. But I can't go on or talk to somebody for more than an hour probably without mentioning Jesus, because he's like my best friend.
What do you say to, because Holly knows, I mean, even on some dates when I tried to dip my toe back into it and trust God, I would be texting Holly, or I would be telling her after the date, like, this is what happened. What do I do? Because
Yeah.
same thing to you. I'm a very open person, but I'm also very guarded when I need to be.
Yeah.
And there are moments on a date. I remember this one beautifully. He was asking me kind of just the basic questions of where I see myself. Oh, I hate those questions. Like, oh, what's your favorite color? I don't have one, fool. Next question. But it's like, I just flat out was like, look, dude, I was like, I appreciate this date. I said, but I'm going to be real with you. I'm looking for my husband. I'm ready to get married. I'm not rushing God's timing, but I'm also not going to waste your time. And this guy, I kid you not, he straight up said, I don't think I'm the man for you because you're too perfect for me and I can't provide what you need. And see, what's frustrating, because I know a lot of women hear this. They hear you're too good for me.
That
line. I hear that you deserve better than me. I'm not, and that may be true, because if a guy says that, he's just flat out not interested.
Might be telling the truth.
And that's very true. But it's tough for women, because I think, what if, and I've heard this before, okay? What if a girl is interested in a guy and he seems to be interested in her and they're hitting it off well, but he's still not really approaching her. He's not really asking her on dates. He's not doing anything. And she's like, well, what if I shot my shot? I know a lot of women are thinking, can I put myself out there? But I'm more on the old school way of, if you want me bad enough, you pursue me. Like, that's my mindset. So I have to shift my thinking and keep an open mind when women come to me saying, I think I'm going to text him, or I think I'm going to ask him to on a coffee date. And I'm like,
now, is I know you mentioned like a man needs to be pursuing you from a male brain. Why is that? Like, what is it in y'all's head that, the pursuing is important?
Well, it's not mine. It's biblically what God says. And so like I try to, put, because in my mind, I'm like, yeah, it'd be great if all the girls just came to me. Like, it's way easier. But that's not what God says I should do. He says that I should be, the man in it, and I should pursue the woman and lead in that. And that's leading from the very start. If, I'm not can't lead to, or I can't work up the courage to go ask a girl that I like on a date, then how am I going to be able to, have courage in raising a family or doing all these other things and leading spiritually? So, I mean, it's just what God says.
Yeah, I've never heard it put that way. If he can't even get up the courage to ask you on a date, how's he supposed to lead you to God? Like that.
That's good.
That's huge. I think that helps somebody.
That's so true. It's like, you know what? You couldn't even ask me on a date. Why am I going to talk to you? Like,
And I would say, like, I do have one of my best friends, like, there's one of my sister's best friends and one of my best friends. They end up, they're engaged now. And, he didn't really see her that way in the moment, but she just, whatever, told my sister, like, hey, I actually think he's cute or whatever. And, anyway, then we kind of told him, but he initially ended up going and, doing it himself. But yeah, sometimes it takes a little, which isn't the worst thing, but not, like I said, I'm not like, maybe the guy just sometimes isn't thinking that or whatever, and you say that, and then he's, then he really pursues, like, once it's made clear. But obviously, preferably, he would do it. But I don't think that there's like like, if he doesn't do that, and I'm the first one to talk to him, that it's like the worst thing. But
because girls will say, what if he's just shy? And I'm like, in my head, maybe this is where I need to be educated. In my head, I believe if a man is interested in you, he will let you know, and he's going to try to pursue you. So my head can't wrap around the excuses of, oh, well, you're, I'll give him time. He hasn't texted me back. He's busy. And I'm going, no.
Everybody has
I'm guilty of that. Like, I'm guilty of that. I want to encourage Lacey in her dating life. And I'm like, well, give him some grace. Maybe this, maybe that. And she's like, no, it's very simple. She just stands firm on, like, no, it's not hard. It takes 2 seconds to text a person. Well, I'm not budging. And I'm like, all right, I get it.
It's kind of like what you were saying, Hudson. It's when you've worked on your heart and you've been through so many things in your life that have shaped you. And it's an everyday battle. You pick up your cross every single day. It is not something that we'll be fighting the rest of our life. Christianity is hard. But what's frustrating, I think, and a lot of people need to understand, when you're secure in yourself, you're secure in who God calls you to be, and you have worked your butt off to get to that position, and you want nothing but to be in the joy and in the love of Christ. It's almost like you just get these clear goggles, if you will. And
you don't 100%.
You don't
That's the only way you can
tolerate
describe it.
excuses. You don't tolerate certain things that you used to, and things that are kind of lame, or they're just, you could tell, are very adolescent. You just kind of looking at them and you're going, I'm not tolerating that. And
Yeah.
it may come off as like, some may say I'm a little too strong, or I'm a little too
Yeah.
rigid, whatever vocabulary they want to use. But at the end of the day, I've had to guard my heart so many times, and I've had to shape the woman I am today and pray for the woman I am today, all while praying for my husband. I'm not leaving that up for a chance.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving that up for anything. Like, this is the man that I will, he's going to raise my kids. So it's
Yeah.
like, that's the most important decision I'm going to make. And I know I've had a lot of people tell me, you need to calm down a bit. You need to do this. You need to just settle, essentially.
Right.
And I'm going, that cannot be the mindset these days. That can't be, or at least maybe that's why I'm still single. But from a man's standpoint, I have to believe that when you are a man of God, you have that same exact mindset, and you have
Yeah.
high standards for yourself, and you're trusting the Lord to bring you your right woman. And I believe that. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you say to people that it's taken a long time and they're getting impatient and they're tired of
Yeah.
waiting? Like, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah,
Read a
no, that's
book.
definitely it's definitely a hard thing. 'Cause that's something that, and I pray for, my future wife every day. And Matthew 6 talks about praying, and it's like, don't babble like the Pharisees or whatever, but like he says he already knows your heart. So if you're really wanting something, like he already knows that, like make it clear to him. And like you just want to make sure it's obviously not number one, but like I make that clear, like, Lord, I do want a wife, I do want to be married someday, and I know it's going to be in your timing. Make it a woman that's going to fear you above all else and love you above all else, and just make it obvious to me whenever that is gonna happen. But I'd say if you catch ourselves really getting too like antsy or really getting like depressed about it, we just have to ask ourselves and be honest. What is the most important thing to us? And if it's like, we should be so fulfilled by the joy of the Lord. Like Jesus died on a cross for our sins, and we are so undeserving. Like we deserve hell or nothing, and He's given us everything. Like if I'm struggling sometimes with anxiety, depression, whatever it be, like focus on that. And like that should be more than enough for anything. And like all the other stuff is just extra that we get. And it's like it's a blessing. And just be prayerful about it, because like He is in control, and it's going to be His timing above all else. And pray for it to make it obvious, and pray for a woman that or a man that has the characteristics of Jesus. And if you also have to be okay, like, or would you be okay if that never happened? And like you have to ask yourself that, and that's a hard thing.
Yeah. Would you be content alone?
But if you come to the end of yourself and say, like, that is okay, like even if I do want this, it's an earthly thing, that's the thing I want probably the most. But if I don't get that, like, it's okay, like I have Jesus. This life is so short compared to eternity. If you view like a rope, and it's like an eternity length long, and the beginning of it's like a little red piece. That red piece is like the life here on earth, and we try and fit so much into like this little bit, as opposed to like living for eternity and having that perspective. And we have that perspective, it takes all the worry, all the anxiety, and all that away. And then when you're viewing it that way, then the things that you do get in this little red spot, like it's so much more like blessed and like fulfilling, because it's by Him, and what doesn't make you or break you. Like He's the one who makes or breaks you. You're identified by Him, and not by a relationship or even by marriage or whatever. You're not defined by that. You're defined by Jesus.
Yeah, that's huge. Hudson's preaching today, y'all. That's awesome. I love that. And that's, we've been talking about an hour, and I think that's a really powerful, awesome thing to end on. Just so people know, Passion in Action, what's y'all's next event, or how can people get connected with y'all?
For sure. So we're on Instagram and Passion in Action 24/7. So
okay.
But our next event is actually a retreat. I'm taking 4 high school and college golfers out to Fredericksburg, and we're going to be playing golf with them and doing fellowship at night. So that's something we're going to be doing a lot more of, is different retreats and stuff like that. And then we're going to have a worship night, and that's probably going to be towards the end of May, which we're going to be raising money for a Muslim family that's really in need, and we're trying to share Jesus with them. And then we're having a website that will come out probably in June, and it's going to have there's a deal called DBS Bible Studies or Discovery Bible Studies, and there's like you go through a paragraph and you ask 3 questions, and it's, what is God's character in this? What does it say about people, and like what do we do with it? And so it's very like simple, and it's really spreading the gospel all throughout the Middle East right now. It really gets the person you're doing it with to really kind of draw what they're thinking out. So we're going to have a link on our website for anybody who wants to sign up for that. They can do it. So you can share that with anybody, or anybody who wants to lead one. And they're pretty simple to lead. And then we're going to have like probably 10 or 12 guys who are going to be discipling / mentoring just younger college kids or high schoolers. So any like younger kids that need mentorship or whatever, we're going to be getting on the phone with them once a week and trying to see them, hang out with them once a quarter, and just be there for them, because I wish I would have known a lot of this stuff whenever I was in high school / college.
Kidding.
So that's all in the works. I'm working on the guy with the website here. It'll be done in hopefully by June.
That's awesome. I just love everything you're doing. That's why Lacey said we got to get Hudson on our podcast. He is doing some awesome things.
And it's different to see a man stepping out and being courageous in his faith. And I think everything that you've gone through has led you to this moment for a reason.
For sure.
And I think hearing your testimony, sharing your story, and being vulnerable as a man of Christ, I think men will start to realize, okay, I think I want to talk to him, or maybe I feel more comfortable talking to you. And we do have a lot of men that they watch our podcasts, and TikTok is where we get a lot of our views mostly, but we want to reach out to women and men, because there's ways that people can understand from both genders. 100%. And I knew that bringing that aspect of what your knowledge is and your understanding and your wisdom, clearly it's extremely helpful, and we really appreciate it. But we'd like to also help you out and get involved in Passion in Action if you have anything coming up, or like I said, Fredericksburg is like an 1.5-hour drive from us. We don't mind. I know you've got your kiddo, but she's old enough now. So I mean, we'd love to help out and just be a voice for you, and truly help you get this off the ground, because we believe in it. We believe in helping out other people. So it's been great, and you've been super helpful throughout all this. And
we'll be praying for Passion in Action and for y'all to reach young men. And just because we come from a redneck family, I gotta ask, where'd you get that thing?
That's a mule deer right there. I shot that in Mexico, Sonora, Mexico.
Nice.
Went there with my
that's
boss.
a good one.
Yeah,
okay, I have been staring at
I was like,
whole thing. I'm like, I gotta see that.
Yeah.
Well, I shot my first mule deer in New Mexico, so I was like, I don't think that's a what?
I was like, that's not. I was like, I've been eyeballing it the whole conversation.
We have our dad, who's the Uncle Si, the Texas Uncle Si, and his entire house is filled with bass and trout and axes, fallow, everything. So we're sitting there. I'm like, I think
I know. I'm like, hey,
that's awesome, though.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you so much for your time and awesome conversation. I know this is going to reach somebody. It's going to touch a heart, change a mind. We're just super grateful that you made the time for us. So
we appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability, because I think that is what is going to make it click for a lot of men. And I certainly believe that. So I really appreciate that, because sometimes you never know if it's truly pure intentions, and it's evident that it is. So I appreciate you.
Can I share one more thing?
Of course.
Absolutely. We have nothing but time. We're just being respectful of your time.
No worries. But I just want to make it known too, like I said, it's never perfect. Like, I've been so far from perfect, but the Bible also talks a lot about, that in our flesh we've been slaves to sin before. And a lot of the time we don't really like we hear you can be like in freedom in Christ. And like a lot of time I don't think that we actually really think that that's real. And like the resurrection and power of Jesus like lives within us. And so I just want to encourage people to really be honest with themselves about that question and ask, like, are we slaves to sin, or are we free in Christ? And if not, just ask them. And it's not always like some weird experience or whatever, but like having faith in that and praying to the Lord for that, to the Lord, like, I want to be free. Like, here are the things that I'm doing wrong. Change my heart. Like, it's whatever it is. Like I said, Matthew 6, he knows your heart. Like, if you want to do the worst possible thing in the world, he already knows it. So just tell him and cry out to him. And ask him to change your heart in it. And like I've experienced that. There's true freedom in him. Like, I'm somebody who struggled with lust, struggled with lying, all these different things. And like I said, it's not that it's ever, you're not going to be not tempted, but you can truly be free from those things. And it's the resurrection of power of Jesus is real. It's alive today, and it lives in each one of us who call upon him. So
yeah, it's kind of mind blowing to think about.
And I mean, even that verse, I have it on my desk at work. It's the "Do not be conformed by this world, but be renewed by the renewal of your mind." Yes, it's one of my favorites, and it's just every time I look down at that when things are getting stressed out or my anxiety and depression gets up, I sit there and look at that, and I'm like, it just snaps me back into reality that sometimes we as emotional humans, we fall into the world because it's easy to do so. We have to pay the bills, we have to do our job, but we don't take for a second to step back and go, we're not going to be here long. Like, this is temporary. I mean, I want to live for Christ. I want to live for what he calls me to do and to follow his commands. That's what brings me true joy. So I hope other people, like you said, falling into that and understanding whether or not you're falling for the sin or are you truly worshiping in the Lord. There's a huge distinction, and you can almost see it resonate off of people too in some regards. But
yeah, that's huge. And that's our whole goal with this podcast. We said to ourselves, like, what's our goal? And we both just said, like, we want to make heaven crowded, man. Like, we want to take as many people with us.
Everyone to feel this. It's so amazing. I just want everyone
we'd be selfish if we didn't, share it.
Yeah, like, and
our pastor says that your faith is personal, but it's never private. And it's we'd be selfish if we wouldn't share it.
Yeah. And we'd love to. I know I've talked to Holly about this. We're trying to make this a series to where we interview different men. So when we do these series, we might have you back on just to kind of see how things are going, update Passion and Action. We really want that to get off the ground for you. So if we bug you again, it's just to get some more
No worries.
We love having like cool dudes on, because I think the misconception for people that aren't necessarily believers is they think, man, it's Christian guys are dudes, they're a bunch of weird like socks and sandals wearing guys.
No, I'm just talking about with my buddy, and it's not like following Jesus is the most exciting thing in the world.
Yeah,
and something too about my story I mentioned before, like I used to like view it as this rule book deal, so I have to follow these rules, and I didn't even understand why. But like it changes from like I have to do this to like, oh my gosh, like I get to do this. Like all those things he asks you to do are out of love, because he knit you in your mother's womb and he knows what's best for you because he made you. And so it's not like you have to do these to follow me necessarily. That's not the heart behind it. It's like, I want the best for you. Here's what you can do to live the most purpose-filled life. And so I get to do this. I get to partake in it. And it's like an exciting thing, and he leads you and does like do the most like crazy like things, crazy conversations, crazy coincidences that like, I mean, it's nuts. It's not a boring or whatever thing. It's a crazy, wild, like fun ride. And there's nothing more exciting than.
And his, the transformation and the passion he's done in you, it's evident even to us just sitting here talking. Like, you can see how excited and passionate you are about God, and that's going to reach so many people. And like you said, like, it's crazy, all these coincidences, like, our podcast linked up with, with you and with your Passion and Action. And you just never know where these connections and people are all going to, mesh and do better things for the kingdom. So that's amazing. And I feel like we could talk forever on this one, but we're trying to be respectful of your time. We're so glad we had you on. we definitely will stay in touch and put all your passion in action on our page and share it with people.
Yeah, send us links to stuff. That way we can attach it in the bio. I know a lot of people on YouTube, because we'll post YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and TikTok.
I'm probably missing one, but
Instagram and Facebook. So we're trying to get on all platforms, and we know there's tons, but we've had people tell us this. We get grilled a bit, is like, put the links in there, put the stuff in there. So we'd love to just have that direct link where people are like, hey, I want to support. Click. You got to make it simple for people.
And my husband's a big golfer, so if you have another golf tournament, I'll let him know.
We will for sure. We're probably going to have one I would think in July. So
okay.
As soon as I get that planning, I'll let y'all know.
Make it the same weekend as our show. We'll be there.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So
that'll be so fun.
Thanks again so much. We appreciate it. Like I said, you're our first guest, so you're kind of our guinea pig, but you're an awesome first guest. I have no doubt it's going to reach somebody somewhere. So
all it takes is one. That's all that matters.
That's right.
That's all it takes. Exactly. Thank you so much. Let us know if you have questions for us or anything like that.
Yeah. Thank y'all for having me. I really enjoyed it, and appreciate too what y'all are doing as well. So enjoyed it.
Awesome. Yeah.
We look forward to helping you out. We'll be in touch.
All right. Y'all sounds good. Thank y'all.
All right. See you later.
Bye.